The distress beacon had been transmitting for 73 hours when Commander Zakara finally accepted the truth. No one was coming. The Corvani rescue protocols were clear. After 72 hours without response, a vessel was considered lost with all hands. Resources would not be wasted on corpses floating in the void. Zakara's mandibles clicked in bitter amusement as she watched the life support readouts tick steadily downward. The Swiftclaw's engines had failed during what should have been a routine patrol of the outer rim. A cascade failure in the quantum drive had left them stranded between star systems, too far from any inhabited world to matter. Her crew of 12 had already begun showing signs of oxygen deprivation, lethargy, confusion, the telltale blue tinge creeping across their chitinous faces. The Corvani were a practical species. They understood mathematics, probability, resource allocation. It made perfect sense that the fleet command would write them off. Zakara had made similar calculations herself countless times during her rise through the ranks. Logic was survival. Commander. Her communications officer, Tekri, spoke with the sluggish cadence of someone fighting hypoxia. Still no response to our beacon. Should we conserve power and shut down non-essential systems? The question hung in the recycled air like a funeral shroud. They all knew what non-essential meant. Everything except the beacon, which would continue broadcasting their final moments to an empty universe until the power cells finally died. Maintain current systems, Zakara replied. If they were going to die, she would not make her crew suffer in darkness. That's when the proximity alarms began screaming. Contact! Tekri's voice cracked with sudden alertness. Unknown vessel dropping out of hyperspace, distance 2,000 kilometers and closing. Zakara's four eyes focused on the tactical display with predatory intensity. The signature was unlike anything in their databases. Organic curves instead of the angular efficiency preferred by most spacefaring species, and energy readings that seemed almost primitive by galactic standards. Are they responding to our beacon? She asked. Unknown. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, but the language... Tekri's antennae twitched in confusion. It's not in our translation matrix. Wait, they're attempting to establish a communication link using basic mathematical sequences. Put them through. The view screen flickered to life, revealing something that made several of her crew recoil in instinctive horror. The creature had only two eyes positioned absurdly close together above a small breathing orifice. Its skin was a disturbing pale color, covered partially by some kind of artificial material. Most unsettling of all, it appeared to be showing its teeth in what their xenobiology training identified as either a threat display or something else entirely. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Persistence, the creature said, and somehow their translation systems managed to process the words. We received your distress signal and are here to assist. What is your status? Zakara found her voice after a moment of stunned silence. I am Commander Zakara of the Corvani vessel Swiftclaw. We have suffered total engine failure and are experiencing critical life support failure. Our rescue window has expired. We do not understand why you have come. The human, she remembered now, they were called humans, tilted its head in a gesture that somehow conveyed curiosity despite the alien features. Your rescue window expired? What does that mean? Our people maintain rescue operations for precisely 72 hours. After that point, resource allocation protocols determine that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Captain Chen interrupted, and Zakara's translator struggled with several words that appeared to be creative profanity. You're still alive, aren't you? Then we're still rescuing you. Stand by for docking procedures. Over the next 4 hours, Zakara watched in growing amazement as the human crew performed what could only be described as miracles. They jury-rigged life support connections between incompatible systems using what appeared to be spare parts and creative applications of metallic tape. When their atmospheric mixtures proved incompatible, the humans simply donned protective suits and worked in the Corvani environment. They replaced critical components with hand-fabricated alternatives that somehow functioned better than the originals. Your engineering is impressive, Zakara told Captain Chen as they watched the human chief engineer, a boisterous creature named Rodriguez, argue with the Swiftclaw's computer in a mixture of 3 languages and interpretive dance. But I must ask, why risk your vessel and crew for strangers? We have nothing to offer in trade, and our species have never established formal diplomatic relations. Chen looked at her with those unsettling dual eyes. and the expression was unmistakably one of confusion. You were in trouble. That's reason enough. But the resource allocation? Commander, with respect, you can take your resource allocation and shove it into the nearest black hole. Chen's voice carried an edge of something that Zekara's predator instincts recognized as barely restrained violence. Nobody gets left behind. Not on my watch. Not ever. 18 hours later, the Swiftclaw's engines hummed with restored power. The human engineers had not only repaired the quantum drive, but had somehow improved its efficiency by 12%. When Zekara attempted to discuss compensation, Captain Chen simply handed her a small device. Quantum beacon, Chen explained. Broadcasts on human emergency frequencies. If you ever need help again, activate it. Doesn't matter where you are or what the situation is, someone will come. Zekara stared at the device. But your people, surely you have resource limitations, protocols, practical considerations. We do, Chen admitted, but we also have something else. We call it stubbornness. Some might call it stupidity. When someone needs help, we help them. When someone's in danger, we go get them. When someone says something can't be done, the human's teeth showed again in that strange expression. Well, we tend to take that as a personal challenge. As the Persistence prepared to depart, Zekara found herself studying the quantum beacon. Such a simple device, yet it represented something that challenged everything she understood about survival in an indifferent universe. The mathematics didn't add up. The logic was fundamentally flawed, and yet she was alive. Tekri, she called to her communications officer. Draft a message to Fleet Command. Inform them that we are implementing new rescue protocols effective immediately. What are the new parameters, Commander? Zekara looked out at the stars where the human ship was already jumping back into hyperspace, ready to answer the next call for help in an impossibly vast galaxy. No time limit, she said. As long as there's hope, we keep trying. In the months that followed, the Corvani fleet began receiving reports from across their territory. Stories of human ships appearing at impossible distances from their own space, responding to distress calls with reckless disregard for practical considerations. They rescued crews from pirate attacks, provided aid during natural disasters, and helped stranded vessels regardless of species or political affiliation. The other galactic powers called it inefficient. They said it was unsustainable. They predicted the humans would exhaust themselves within a generation. The humans characteristically told them where they could file their predictions. And in the cold mathematics of space, something impossible began to happen. Trade routes became safer. Piracy decreased as criminals learned that attacking anyone might bring human retribution. Exploration expanded as crews grew confident that help would come if needed. The universe, it seemed, had become a little less lonely. All because some upstart species refused to accept that anybody should be left to die in the dark.